We are ready to be.
Great, let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to the Cover 12 meeting of the CSCC Board of Directors. We're delighted to be coming here and visiting Redmond. It's been a number of years since we have been here. Thank you, COVID. The very first after call to order is going to be the needed lands acknowledgement. And the purpose of a lands acknowledgement is really to acknowledge someone, to say that I see you and you are significant. And the purpose of a land acknowledgement is to recognize and pay respect to the original inhabitants of a specific region. And it's an opportunity to express gratitude and appreciation to those whose territory you now exist in. So our land acknowledgement is that CSCC would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land our campuses reside on are the original lands of the Wasco and the Wanalama, or the Warm Springs people. They ceded this land to the U.S. government in the Treaty of 1853. The Numu, or the Paiute people, were forcibly moved to the Warm Springs Indian Reservation starting in 1879. It's also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds, and the Klamath tribes claim it as their own. Descendants of these original people are thriving members of our communities today. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. Shannon, are you able to do roll call?
Yeah. Bruce Abernethy,
Here.
Alan Hunter, Oliver Tatum,
Here.
Laura Prescott Cooper. Here. Joe Krenowitz. Erica Scapel here. And Jim Clinton. Jim, you're muted.
Okay. Just got in.
Okay, thank you. Right, Presley, here. Alicia Moore. Here. Jim, I'm gonna be you when you're not speaking. You can still go. I'm going to be interested and also here. Sorry, Alicia Moore. Yes, here. Laura Bowman is here. Zach Boone.
Present.
Anne Marie Hamlin here. Adrian Sorrell here. Amy Ward here. Emma Chaput here. Mark Reinke
Here.
and Jen Covet. That is.
Thank you. Next item is agenda changes. Are there any agenda changes I need to know about? I'm so sorry. I apologize. I was briefed that just before. I'd like to ask Wendy Babst to come on up. She is our interim campus safety director. And it's an opportunity for you just to sort of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, we're the best place.
You can either come here or you can go to the podium, totally your call.
Okay, I will stand here if that's
Yeah.
all right. So, and I'm happy to meet all of you. My name is Wendy Babst, and as was mentioned, I am the interim director of campus safety. And I have been teaching it here at Central Oregon Community College since 2019. I have retired from a long law enforcement career over 30 years with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, but I've also been teaching at Clackamas Community College Criminal Justice for the last 13 years. So that's kind of my background. I was also an interim director of college safety at Clackamas Community College upon my retirement. I did that. They approached me. I did that for 8 months. So I am married. I have 5 grown sons, 3.5 grandsons, and
3.5.
yes, 3.5. One's going to be due in the beginning of November. So we're 0 for 9 on girls, but very happy to have the opportunity to come in and you know, kind of be part of a campus safety department that's really going in a new direction. And so I've been tasked with some very direct things from Dr. Chesley, and we are looking at, you know, really opening up communication on the campus, making sure that campus safety is communicating with all of the people on the campus and all of our users, and also, you know, starting to hire people, and then what training and opportunities can we offer to people on campus. So, you know, not just staff, faculty, but students, student life. And so that's kind of what I've been tasked with. As I said, I'm very happy to have this opportunity. I see it as an opportunity and not a challenge. We have 1 employee, but if you know Roger's worth about 15 employees in my experience. And so we're moving in the right direction. And, you know, the last thing I'm tasked with is hoping to find you guys a great full-time director to take this job on and continue with this opportunity.
Great. Any questions? Thank you. Yeah, we're delighted to have you here.
Yeah, we're happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
So agenda changes, none that I'm aware of. Next item is public comment. Is there anybody that wants to make any comments? If so, I can ask you just to come on up to the front.
And none submitted in email.
Okay, thank you very much. The next item is the consent agenda. Got 2 items on that. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved by Laura, seconded by Oliver. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on to the information items. Adrian, you were filling in for Kathleen. We've got the financial statements. Are anything you want to report, or are there any questions from the board?
Nothing, I have nothing to report.
Any questions from the board? Yeah, we like these financial statements. That one of the things that I used to say when I was on city council to staff is make my job easy, you know, in the sense to kind of keep doing what you're doing, and we appreciate you continuing to bring us the good news. Laura, on the new hire reports, any questions from the board? Laura, anything you want us to highlight above and beyond what was in the packet?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, okay. Amy, the Redmond campus update. Got a presentation here.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for being here at the Redmond campus today. I am new to this role. I've been the Redmond campus director for just over 4 months. My professional work has always been mission focused. I spent the last 2 decades or so in nonprofit management. I am thrilled to have pivoted my career to higher education and in particular, I'm very happy to be a Bobcat. I believe knowledge is power, and I am here in Redmond to bring power to the people. When I was interviewing for this position, I talked about the Redmond campus enrollment numbers. And Betsy Julian told me that the Redmond campus isn't broken, it's just sleeping and it needs to be woken up. And my early observation is that this campus and its ability to address community needs is a sleeping giant. So today I'm going to highlight some of the great work that my colleagues have accomplished over the past year. And despite some really challenging circumstances, and I'll share my thoughts for how we can build upon that success to grow our signature programs, to strengthen our connections and service to our home community, and to improve student success. So to start with, I'll share a little bit about the city of Redmond, which is growing rapidly. In the last 12 years, significant growth. Current population estimate is nearly 40,000. We expect to reach about 50,000 by 2040. The median household income is 65,000. The demographic profile of the city includes a high percentage of families, and about 18.3% of the population is defined as non-white or persons of color. Redmond cultivates a business-friendly climate and is a growing manufacturing hub for the region. Pre-pandemic, the transfer rate for Redmond high schools was just over 22%. We currently have about 110 recent Redmond graduates from local Redmond high schools. And last year we had 48 students from Redmond enrolled in our College Now program. Overall at COCC, there are 466 students with Redmond zip codes that are enrolled throughout the region at our branch campuses in Bend and online. I was asked to give a little bit of an orientation of where we are. So we're all in the Technology Education Center. It's our newest building that opened in 2014. Here we have space for transfer courses, our automotive program, and this community meeting space. And this room gets a lot of great use from the Redmond Community Choir to early childhood education programs through a partnership with Neighbor Impact. In building 1, we have science labs, several classrooms, our vet tech program, and the yoga classroom. In building 2, that's leased by our community partners at Oregon Department of Human Services, WorkSource Oregon, Oregon Employment Department, and Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. And then in building 3, we have more classrooms and the Manufacturing and Applied Technology Center. And I always like when I'm talking about Redmond campus to highlight the solar array on the north end of the campus, which provides power for the campus and is a significant cost savings for the college. I was asked specifically to address our enrollment. It has been trending down, and the pandemic did really set us back here in Redmond. But we're working to make up some ground. We can strengthen enrollment by strengthening the path to college with our local high schools, by connecting with adult learners and first-generation students who are curious about furthering their education or upskilling their professional knowledge, by demonstrating that a transfer degree or a CTE certificate significantly increases lifetime earning potential, and by providing more non-credit opportunities through community education and the Center for Business, Industry, and Professional Development. This takes time, intentional effort, and a deep and demonstrated commitment to the Redmond community. And that is what I am here for. Thanks.
Are there any questions?
Oh, I'm not.
And yes, what you're here for. That's awesome. Yes, I'm excited to hear more.
Can I ask one question on something that you said before? You said 110 students from the high school, which I assume was last year.
Yes, from Redmond High Schools, 110 recent high school graduates are enrolled at COCC throughout. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking. We offer, so right now we have 466 students enrolled on this campus. We are offering a variety of transfer classes to increase access and options for students in Redmond and other communities. We're working with our e-learning team, and we have several instructors who are teaching here and streaming online or to other campuses. And the college is also working towards a more intentional scheduling practice to ensure that the right courses are offered at the right times to meet student needs. I hope that while you're all here, you'll step into the student comments. It's just right over here in 224. It was a project that was led by many of my colleagues across multiple departments. And it provides library circulation services, IT support. We have laptops and hotspots to check out. We have access to advising and financial aid there. It creates a comfortable and welcoming space for students to just hang out and relax and connect with each other, with our knowledge that the more we can keep students on campus and engaged, the more likely they are to complete their courses. The CTE programs are a huge asset to the Redmond campus. We have 25 students enrolled in apprenticeship, 49 students in our automotive program taking classes in Bend and in Redmond. Manufacturing has 54 students, which is approaching pre-pandemic enrollment, and 22 students in vet tech. Collectively, these programs had an 84.7% completion rate, and I want to highlight that apprenticeship and vet tech were at 100% last year through their cohort model. These students are highly employable. They're graduating with both the soft and the trained skills ready to enter the workforce. And we're looking at some expansion opportunities through a Department of Labor grant to purchase new leading edge equipment and software. And this project is part of a consortium of a number of Oregon community colleges to create a more versatile and shareable curriculum. As part of this grant, I've been going with Mike Perry, the director of the MATC program, out into the community to meet with local employers. And a few weeks ago, we were at CLS Fabrication, where they had recently hired 2 of our graduates. And the COO, Jesse, shared the following quote. He said, CLS has certainly benefited from our partnership with COCC's Manufacturing and Applied Technology Center by way of fresh candidates like Corbin and Orlando, who are well-trained, highly skilled, and ready to join the workforce. And I have a video from Corbin to share with you a little bit about how his career has
Shop.
Oh,
I started at GAC in
Or not, it's not set up to share items.
Oh.
It's not broadcasting to. That is not the one.
Of 2019, and I graduated with an associate's in manufacturing technology in spring of 2021. My program was a mix of welding and machining courses, and that is what I do here at CLS Fabrication. I was hired here a few months before I graduated for a welding position. And from there, I quickly moved on to operating CNC equipment. Some of the courses I took at the school and the skills I learned directly helped advance me to those positions and helped promote me within here at this business. I am now a part of our engineering department, helping quote jobs and fix problems on our shop floor. Having completed the program definitely gave me an edge against the other employees and allowed me to grow here very quickly.
So Corbin is pretty serious here, but it was so great to see him. He had started out on the shop floor welding. Now he's upstairs on the 2nd floor. He has his own office. He has his name on the door. I could tell how proud he was of himself, but that is nothing compared to Darren Davis, our welding instructor, and Mike Perry, our program director, who were, they were beside themselves. They were over the moon and so proud of this young man. And I just met him, but I was also very impressed. And so finally, I'll wrap up by sharing a little bit about our non-credit options here in Redmond. The Center for Business, Industry, and Professional Development last year helped 63 clients in Redmond, which created an increase of sales of over $200,000. This is great work. However, there are 1,400 independent privately owned businesses in Redmond, so we have an opportunity to really make a lot of connections. I carry Small Business Development Center cards in my purse when I'm out in the community and talking about these opportunities a lot. And then I know you recently heard from Stephanie Getch about our community education classes, but just to highlight some of the great work she's done here in Redmond. Last year, she scheduled 87 courses with 622 students. We had the Central Oregon Summer Spanish Immersion Program here. Was one of my first weeks on campus, and it was so fun to see all of the different classes and opportunities that were created. That was coming back again this June. And then finally, we had 33 students attending camps, which is a great opportunity for young children to get their first little experience of a college campus And it's also a really affordable opportunity. So, the last slide. A big part of my job is connecting with and listening to people who live and work here so that we can address the interests and needs of our growing and diverse community. And I really think we have a ton of potential, and I have some big dreams for this campus. We are, and we will be even more in the future, a welcoming and accessible entry point for non-traditional and first-generation students, a launching pad for post-secondary education, providing resources and opportunities to create work-ready graduates. And it's also important to me, I want the people of Redmond to take pride in and have a sense of ownership of their home campus. That's right here in the backyard. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for your time and for listening. And I'm happy to answer questions afterwards. And I do hope that you will stop by the student comments before we go home.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks.
Are there any questions the board has at this stage?
Briefly. So Amy is quite new to the college, and we are going to be, and look at the amazing stuff she's doing already. We also are going to be holding some board meetings in Prineville and Madras later in the year. So you'll get to meet those directors again. And you haven't met her formally yet, and she may not know this, but you'll meet her formally a little bit later this year. Cindy Leonard is our Dean of Instructional Outreach. She oversees College Now, all of our campus directors, e-learning, and some other, maybe Amber.
No.
So it's kind of a new model for us, frankly, this unit. And so throughout the year, we've got a number of different presentations. Not all of them have been notified yet, but you're going to love it.
Thank you. Next item is the residence hall financials. Alicia?
I'm better.
Yep.
All over here.
You're fine.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I know you're out in the community to be interactive in the community, but it sounds like you're already out there. I mean, it's impressive that you have business cards that you're handing out for CNCC. So thank you.
But having our board. Well, I'm happy to share with you an update on Wiki and Paul financials, for lack of a better way of describing this. We met with the real estate committee earlier this summer, and all suggested that we share this at the board meeting because a lot of things have changed in the last couple of years from when we started student housing. And so what I want to first do is provide just some history. When we opened student housing, we looked at student housing as a self-sustaining operation. And what we mean by that is when we built the budget, it was built in that housing, the building itself and the revenues generated from it would help pay not only for the bond payment, the cost of the building, right? It would also help pay for any internal supports. And what I mean by that is anytime information technology, campus services, or others did work within our revenue hall, we were charged that service and money was given back to those departments, right? So we paid for an internal service. Additionally, it covered all operational expenses, all staff salaries, room and board payments for our community assistants, all of our activity and event planning. We had a building maintenance, deferred maintenance plan that we contributed towards. We had an IT deferred maintenance plan that we contributed towards. So it was set up in a very different way and very much in self-sustaining operation compared to the rest of the college. And oftentimes when we talk to folks, people will say, well, isn't that the way culinary was set? And to a certain degree it was. But the primary difference here with Shakia Hall and culinary is that culinary was given the building with all that cost paid for, whereas Wikia Hall had to absorb the cost of its annual bond. So very different operation than what we've done in the past. It also, when we reviewed this, the leadership team at the time, the board, others helped us develop a 30-year financial model. And that financial projection was simply a blueprint to say, assuming all these different things held true, here's what the returns of college would look like at certain points in time. And depending on those different scenarios, I think we had 3 or 4 different scenarios.
there was a return to the college. In other words, Wikia Hall would start generating revenue to the college. And anywhere at 14 years of operation, which included paying off the entire bond for the building, up to 30 years of operation. And also that plan also including returning funds to the institution for the support that the institution provided to the building. So a very different operational setup than what we do with a lot of with any of our programs that we have in college. So that's just a really quick history. We've made some changes in recent years that have shifted some thinking on how we operate Juniper Hall, or Juniper, excuse me, flashback 25 years ago. To our mom days. How do we operate Wikia Hall? First and foremost, we brought it back into line with the institutional budgeting, right? So just like any academic program, any student support service, any internal service at the college, Wikia Hall now operates just like everybody else in that sense. It's still in our non-general fund accounts. We can account for its operations separately, but IT doesn't charge, and the services doesn't charge. Any of those types of aspects are just like my office and any of the offices of folks represented here. The second thing we did, which in part thanks to Laura Bowie's leadership, is I said Wi-Fi, but it's really all internet service support for the residents all back in house. Previously, there was some concern that students would need 24/7 service. 660 students be calling at 2 a.m., another 40 at 3 a.m. all night long. And what we found out is that didn't really prove itself true. The bulk of the request for service was from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. In addition, that included contracting out all the infrastructure support for the internet access within the building. And under Laura's leadership and with Jeff Floyd, who also works in IT, and many others, we were able to bring that back in-house. And that came in up to a savings of $200,000 annually that the residence hall no longer had to pay for out of its budget. And that's a substantial savings. And Laura was able to, and her team were able to use those dollars and now help create and fund the student help desk. So not just residence hall students get support, but all students can call in for support or put in work orders and that sort of thing. So bringing internet service back in-house was a big shift. And then shortly before he retired, Dave Dona refinanced our bond payment for that, and that yielded another $100,000 in savings to the residence hall budget each and every year. So that made a substantial difference on our bottom line, and I'm going to share some of that with you right now. Super tiny print, I realize. I'm going to talk through some of this in more detail in just a moment. But what you can see is going back, we opened in 2015 and 16. So this is just a snapshot of what we can capture on the screen. But what you can see is across the top, the total operating income, the total amount of transfers in, and we'll talk about that, and then where we're ending. And what I really want you to look at, I think be short to point to it, but is that $370,000 line item right down here. And what this shows is that going back in 2017-18, the college supported Wikia Hall to the tune of $300,000, right? Remember, we got our bond payment, we had $200,000 in IT support, we had a $100,000 larger bond payment. But to sort of pay for all that, pay for all the salaries and all the other expenses, the college needed to support it to the tune of $300,000. And you see that all the way across here. And I'm going to show you some detail on that in a minute. Some of it looks daunting, some of it is not so daunting. You can see in these 2 years as well, the CARES dollars, the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund that all colleges and universities have access to. A lot of colleges use that to help pay for the housing operations in the year that we had to close housing altogether due to the pandemic, or 1 year, partially due to the pandemic. In the end, with those changes that we made to how we budget support and operate Wikia Hall, it comes down to this. When we pulled out that IT support, when we reduced our bond payment, room rates now cover all operational expenses, including bond payment. And from last year, we're now operating positive cash flow and generating just over $365,000 a year to the college. And that was a substantial change to before the college was supporting to the tune of about $300,000 a year. So something I'm excited about, I think several of us are pretty excited about. And then when we take a look a little bit deeper, Laura asked a really good question about these amounts right here, these transfers in. And so this is going to get into the weeds a bit, but I will explain and you can read along with me. This shows the years that the college provided support to housing and where those funds came from. And when I was looking at this,
Well, okay, yeah, the first 2 years, the college really did contribute about $300,000 from a variety of sources to help cover that bond payment. In 2018-19, we still covered about $300,000, but a lot of those came from funds that were generated because we had housing. Right? So as part of the housing's budget, we fed a food service reserve, and any profits gained from that was something the college held on to. The stoves and commercial kitchens are expensive to replace items on, but we generated a far higher rate because of higher occupancy levels than we had anticipated. We also had some excellent summer programs that brought youth and other groups to campus and generated revenue. So without Wiki at Hall, some of that revenue would not have existed. And so when you pull those components out, whether it's the stuff that helps self-sustain it, that year it only came about $130,000 that the college had to cover. The next 2 years are a little bit different because you had your dollars in there, the higher station emergency relief fund dollars, same with 2021. And so when you pull out the things that student health, Wiki and health student health generated revenue for, the last 3 years, the college has not had to subsidize student housing. And so one of the questions that came up is how long would it take then for that grand total in the far, your right hand column, my left hand column, for Wiki and Paul pay the college back essentially the money it's supported it with. When it comes down to it, you can do the math, unlike me during the board retreat the other day, I couldn't do it so well. But within the next 2 years, we should be able to pay the college back essentially, or generate enough revenue to cover what the college used to help initially support housing. And when you look at that, with open housing, 6-7 years ago, we initially projected that to be at year 14 up to year 30, depending on a bunch of different assumptions. By simply shifting our financial model on how we treated that building and bringing some services back in-house, we're now seeing that return to the college, and where the Wiki and Paul can generate additional revenue or an alternative funding stream for the college and within the next 2 years. Doing it now, if we wanted to pay it back, that's
So, quick question again, obviously wonderful news, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I mean, when you talk about changing the model, obviously, you're taking things that used to be counting as an expense and then sort of taken away. How much of that was that per year?
So the internet access was about 200,000 a year. Campus services was about 80,000 a year, and if I remember right, IT was about an additional 40,000 a year in the house support. So it was substantial.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm going is that's one reason that the return on sort of the break-even point is a lot diminished, but it clearly would have been before 14. Yeah.
Absolutely. The two biggest levers really are bringing the internet access back in-house, which actually results in better services for all students, and then refinancing the bond.
Lisa, you told us when we did the tour, but could you remind us the occupancy where we are this year?
Yeah, we're right at 300 students out of 318 spaces, right? We set aside 12 spaces because of COVID and needing an isolation space. So we're about 90-ish% occupancy, changes a percent or two every day, up or down. So we're right in our target of where we typically project occupancy. Which after taking a year off during COVID, that's a hard reputation to rebuild that at community college about housing. So we're very pleased with it.
And I'd just like to say, I remember being on the board when we made the decision to go ahead with that. It was a little bit controversial at that time, and there were definitely some rocky challenges getting out of the gate. But I think you guys really did a fabulous job of, again, providing the services that were needed and figuring out how do we get in touch with people. And I remember you coming back each time, and this is how we're, contacting people, and the soft touch, the follow up as well. And so I think clearly this was the right decision, and it increases stability as far as our enrollment is concerned. So great job all the way around.
Thank you. And that's a great point. Jen and her team have also been really good, Tyler and admissions, about integrating housing as part of the admissions process for traditional age students. And so having it be part of the more normal cycle of how we have conversations has also truly helped.
Any other questions or comments? Jim, anything you want to add?
I have a non-substantive question. Can we get a copy of this email to us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet.
I know it's Kate Donahue in the back, who is our, technically, she's office manager, but she's also every resident's pseudo mom, caretaker. She takes care of all of us too. So I want to give Kate a shout out because without folks like that in the front counter, it really gets to be I like that.
Great. Thank you very much. Next up is Emma Shaput on sabbatical report.
When you approved sabbaticals last spring, many of you said, we want to hear the reports. We want to hear what happened. And so Emma was the first person to do her report, and I recruited her immediately.
Great. Thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to share some of the things that I did on sabbatical. My name is Emma Shipwit. I am an associate professor of human biology in the science department, and this is my 11th year here at COCC. I don't usually, I'm not usually super scripted, but in order to compress 7 months into 10 minutes, I'm going to adhere pretty tightly to this. That said, please let me know if you have questions and don't hesitate to. So I wrote this sabbatical proposal in the midst of COVID restrictions, meaning that there was no guarantee that I could get to any particular place. And as a result, I wrote the proposal as place agnostic. So it wasn't a typical sabbatical of I'm going to go to this place to do this thing. It was much more project focused. And so I have two main areas of proposed focus. The first is science literacy, particularly related to a new science course, Biology 114, Science Literacy, that I'll be teaching this year. And in addition to exploring the opportunities and challenges of teaching this course at our Deer Ridge campus, which is actually one of my goals for in my current professional improvement. My second primary goal is One Health. And the idea with One Health is that it asserts that human, animal, and environmental health are inextricably interconnected. And as a result, we must address those challenges holistically in a multidisciplinary way. And I really wanted to bring that broader, higher level vision of thinking about microbial disease control and prevention into the human and veterinary microbiology classes that I teach here. So this was the proposal. As I got into the work, as opportunities unfolded, my understanding of community needs and potential impact grew, it evolved a little bit. A lot of them. There's the sort of the relative distributions changed. So the work that I did was pretty diverse, and it took me a while to reflect on what an overarching umbrella theme of this work was. And what I came to is that our communities are confronting challenges that arise from the interactions of complicated people within complex systems, whether that system is an ecosystem or our criminal legal system. And so what my work focused on is looking at system level questions of addressing education equity within 3 specific areas. Employing a scientific mindset to confront mis and disinformation. So this is the literacy and communication component. Addressing the interconnectivity of human, animal, and environmental health in the context of climate change. And the opportunity to expand education as a tool to address the impact of our carceral system. So I'm going to share a few specifics of the work that I did in each of these 3 areas, my hope for what I would like to bring back, and I'll end with a conclusion ahead. So in terms of science, literacy, and communication, I took a science literacy class, which provided me a really useful perspective on the fact that I would like our science literacy class to be a skills focused rather than content focused class. I attended the AAAS annual meeting. Their theme was Empower with Evidence, and there were some really stunning sessions, the science of combating disinformation and what we can learn about science literacy from the pandemic. I have long been an advocate for science communication, and as such, I have been aware of the Alda Center for Communicating Science for a bunch of years, but if you are not, Alan Alda, yes, that Alan Alda started this center in 2009 with the idea of evaluating whether we could use applied improvisational techniques to make scientists better communicators. And so I was really thrilled to be accepted into their Spring Women in STEM Leadership Program, a 3-week workshop with a cohort of 24 women and non-binary scientists throughout the United States. And I did a bunch of curriculum development. I made contacts with lots of different people, including some people that I met at this conference who were doing science literacy work. I had skills, tools, blah, blah. And I also have set the stage for collaborations with some of my really fabulous COCC colleagues so that we can bring interdisciplinary skills practice. Theme 2, One Health. This was a little surprising. There were a couple surprising things. One of my surprising things with One Health is sort of disappointing actually. So as I explored the available resources, there was an unfortunate motif, which was, gee whiz, One Health is great, we should do it. Like, and that's it. And then there's no funding, there's no systems level approach to actually solving these really huge challenges. And this is not a new idea, this has been around for decades. And given the fact, think about the incredible disruptions that we have experienced in the last several years as a result of the emergence of SARS-CoV-2. Why are we not doing it? I was just like, oh, it was really kind of disheartening. Then I went to the European One Conference. Woo! These people are my friends. The tone was forthright, no nonsense, and delightfully strident in the message that we must address human, environmental, and animal health in an interconnected way that centers our climate crisis. That we, as citizens, as scientists, as policy influencers, must do this. I was inspired, and I had like this tiny little pilot light that we can go. Lastly, higher ed in prison. This became much more than I thought. I started with great conversations with Jason Lenar and Sue Ridge, talked with folks around Oregon, talked with COCC folks, and I also had a great conversation with folks at the Bard Prison Initiative. It's out of Bard College, frequently considered the gold standard of higher education in prison in the US, and is the subject of a PBS documentary, College Behind Bars. As a result of these conversations, though, I was invited to attend their summer residency program this summer. So I spent a super intense 2 weeks in Hudson Valley, very sweaty, the residents are a variety of people. There were domestic and international educators from all over the place. So Tracy is from Yale, Mary is from the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, all over that, literally. And all of these educators were running, developing, working on college in prison programs within their institutions. Residents also included BPI alumni, so people who are graduates of Bard post-incarceration, as well as staff. And the opportunity to work with previously incarcerated people is pretty intense. I got Reggie's permission to share this story. He is a resident, a graduate of Pitzer College, their Inside Out program. He celebrated his birthday on the residency. It was his first birthday outside of prison in 19 years. And since July, he has been offered and accepted a fellowship at the California State Assembly to do work in prison policy. And just like this is one example of the potentially transformative power of education. Okay, bringing it back. I have opportunities to bring things back. Things that I would like to do are 114 class to build a scaffold of a skills-based course to promote citizen science throughout our science disciplines. The opportunity to incorporate the mosaic model of science thinking and analysis. I do not have time to talk about this right now, but if you want to hit me up, my mind was blown and I had this conversation like, oh my God, I've done science for decades and I just like, whoo. Also one help to weave these concepts throughout the courses, acknowledging that I play a role in educating future practitioners of both human and animal medicine. Because whether we're talking about a family in the global south that relies on livestock for income, or our pets in Central Oregon, every family that includes humans and animals is by definition a one thing. And then lastly, higher ed and prison. I thought I was going to investigate how to teach one class in prison. Really not the case. Okay. I am realizing that I want to do much more than that. And ideally, I intend to work with a broad range of collaborators to figure out how to expand higher ed opportunities at Deer Ridge, including, I hope, an associate's degree program. And to that end, I am working with Jay, Slanar, Deer Ridge, COCC colleagues, statewide partners, national and international colleagues to explore those opportunities. In conclusion, given that this was a place agnostic sabbatical, I packed my bag. I left Oregon late December, snowy, cold, one bag. I spent a month in Tucson, my one domestic long-term location, before overlanding down the southern Baja. This is, in fact, my setup to attend the AAAS conference in Sunrise, watching the hills. I took a brief jaunt to the East Coast where I honed my science literacy skills by doing science with my neighbors. Please note the safety guns. As protocol from their arms and shoes. Then I went to Europe. I spent a month in the Andalusia region of southern Spain. I tooled out to Bogota and Barcelona, with Bruce Emerson and studied abroad folks, and so got to see the Jacques Stradivarius cello performance. After Barcelona, I spent a month in Nice. We'll go back and repeat. In the best country of Spain, and my last European destination was the Adriatic coast of Croatia, from Dinar, where they have their own things. Oh. I ended my travels by traveling from Croatia to the Bard Prison Initiative summer residency program 1 day later without that bag. Remember that bag? December? Yeah, disappeared. It reappeared 2 weeks later, but and then so spent a couple of weeks here before I returned to Oregon in August. So I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity, the sabbatical opportunity to learn, grow, reflect on how I might serve our community differently moving forward. Thank you for supporting sabbatical funds. Faculty definitely appreciate it. And as I travel, we're impressed that community colleges offer sabbaticals in this way. So thank you. Are there questions.
Just one here.
Yeah.
You mentioned about skills instead of just learning, what types of skills would students learn?
Interpreting graphs and interpreting data, identifying biases, drawing conclusions, understanding the where the information is coming from, so an information literacy component, stats component, what do the stats of this tell us? What type of study is it, and what are the limitations of that type of study? Really a very applied way of understanding that scientific thinking is similar to how we do everyday thinking, but it's a little more fussy. And that if we can apply that more broadly, it's super empowering to take those skills. So that's roughly. Yeah, absolutely. And if you have other suggestions.
Well, I want to say thank you very much. My father was a professor and, talk about the importance of sabbatical as an opportunity, as you said, to recharge and come back energized. I think it's fairly clear that happened. I'm really struck, and again, you may, I'm curious, and you may think that there's a more common thread. I mean, from my perspective as an outsider, like those are like really three very, very different, I don't know, disconnect, but I'm curious how you came up with those, and was it because they were different, or was it because you saw a common thread or theme somewhere in them?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I think the answer is that my background is public health. And so I was trained as an infectious disease epidemiologist, and that was the work that I did before I started teaching. And the through line that I see there, public health is all about communication and education. Public health is all about a really broad way of looking at equity and health promotion. And so I think that looking at it from that lens helps it make more sense.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Jim, you're a fellow scientist. Do you want to weigh in or have any questions or comments?
Not exactly science, but how did you like the Frank Gehry building at Bard?
That building is lovely, and I had a great conversation.
Jim, if you could talk.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, no, their science facility is gorgeous. I had a great conversation with Mike Tibbetts, who teaches. They have a citizen science class that is required for all of their students, that it's very much like what I'm trying to build. And he also teaches both at the Avondale campus and at several of their VPI campuses. And so that was, their facilities are beautiful, and I felt secretly pretty proud that I'm like, well, we'll be a college professor who's doing the same thing at our colleges. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think what you did on your sabbatical was really fantastic, and it should dispel any doubts that anybody might have about the value of having faculty do these sabbaticals. I mean, that's really impressive what you did.
Yeah, it was funny. I felt like I did a lot of networking. But then when I wrote my sabbatical final report, I was like, okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you again. I appreciate it. So the next item is Board of Directors operations and our activities. Oliver, you want to start us off? You can say no.
Other than our retreat, I'm not sure I have anything else to report.
Okay. Erica?
I had the OSU Cascades Advisory Board meeting, which I was able to stay for introduction, so I attended the beginning of one, but I have marked off on my calendar for the rest of the year. So I will attend the full one soon. And it was good to meet everybody and have some conversations. The board retreat on the 7th and then the real estate committee meeting yesterday.
And the Tony Dorsch classroom.
Oh, and I did go to the Tony Dorsch classroom dedication earlier, which he received a very nice plaque. And very appreciative, and I really loved his son's connection of how he took classes at COCC and Tony and wanted to be a board member, and then he became a board member and kind of that whole circle. So, yes, thank you, Bruce, for handing that out to him and taking pictures, Laura.
Laura?
I also attended the retreat and the real estate committee meeting and the dedication of the classroom to Tony.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, on the real estate committee, we had a couple big topics, and Joe's not here yet, but I might just mention that one of the big topics was that the city wants to build a high-pressure water main, potentially using an easement that would be granted from COCC. So that's an important topic that we discussed as an introduction. We'll probably need to come to the whole board at some point. And the other one, although I know it was on the agenda tonight, was how impressed, at least I was, on the choice that was made for the architecture for the Madras campus building. That was a really super good development as far as I'm concerned.
Great, thank you. On September 20th, I had an opportunity to, actually, I didn't participate that much because I was more in a listening session at Bend, at the Bend campus. On September 30th, participated in a meeting with Dr. Chesley. Obviously had the October 7th board retreat. And then again, as was mentioned earlier, participated in the dedication of a room for Tony Dorsch in the Manufacturing and Applied Technology building. I think that was a nice event. Someone had served on the board for 20 years. Just incredible longevity and real commitment to the college. So great.
Bruce, can I add one thing?
Yes.
That reminded me? I attended the listening session for the strategic planning in Prineville.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the president's report.
You spent the whole day with me on Friday sharing all kinds
Did I skip that? Yes.
No,
Yeah.
that was, I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
Laura, all of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like you may have reached more Chesley toxicity level. So I just want to share two things, very briefly. One is that, the new academic year of the college is off to a good start, and one of our initiatives that you all referenced is the fact that we've been doing our community listening sessions in preparation for our new strategic plan. And I want to thank Alicia and Christy John for their great work on that, and the whole steering committee for the strategic plan. They are busy at work. We are going to get this done and on schedule. And it was really, I'll just say from my point of view, it was great learning. And I appreciated the opportunity to be at all of them and hear what our community members have to say. So I'm eager to see the results of that and share them with all of you. My other item to share, just so you know, I'm publicly apologizing for the line, the backup down Mount Washington today, 4 and 6, traffic jam outside COCC, but it was all for a very good cause. So I'm not really apologizing. We hosted a drive-through flu and COVID vaccine clinic, and it was successful beyond our wildest dreams. Have you heard anything more?
I do, I have the final numbers. Yeah, so the county thought that we would do a total of 150 to 200 total vaccines between flu and COVID. And we ended up doing 209 flu shots and 164 COVID boosters. That's really awesome. And just that team, we consistently outperformed the county's expectations, and it's a complete group effort. including MLA Foundation many months ago. So, yeah, really, but true apologies for that, absolutely terrible. All right, apologies.
And that's all my report.
Great, thank you very much. A couple dates ahead that are important for people to have. Hopefully you'll be able to come to some of these. On Wednesday, October 19th, our Anthony's at the Old Mill, wonderful, long time fundraising event to really benefit the culinary program. Hope people can make that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Is it too late to register for that?
I mean, today is the deadline, so you've got to. Just call one more, we're doing the city charter 3 months.
Okay,
We'll get you.
okay.
and then our board meeting in November is on Wednesday, November 9th. And then our meeting in December is on Wednesday, December 14th. So, moving on, at this point, the board is going to move into executive session. And the executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, section 2, subsection D, labor negotiations. Representatives of the news media and designated staff are allowed to attend the executive session. However, as a reminder, the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session. So under the provisions of the Oregon Public Meetings Law, the proceedings of this executive session are for background information only and not for publication or broadcast. So why don't we sort of take a couple minute break, let people who are supposed to leave can leave.